Okay, dear students, we will talk today about a very common phenomenon which is called as photoelectric effect. I missed your 2 lectures before because I was not feeling well. The lecture, second part of the X-ray, and the other was for the solid state physics. That is not your semester. The next thing that we will talk today is about the photoelectric effect. Now, what is important in it? You can see here, this is energy axis for electromagnetic radiation, and this is the wavelength axis for electromagnetic radiation. When we talk about the red light, its corresponding temperature is around 700, this is not temperature, this is the wavelength. Its corresponding wavelength around 700 nanometer. And when I talk about the blue light, the corresponding wavelength is less than 500, around 250 nanometer. If I keep myself within this limit, I will call it as visible light. And if I go on this side for smaller wavelengths, I will enter into ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays. Whereas if I go on this side, I will be entering into the region, this side means the wavelength less than 700 nanometer or greater than 700 nanometer. I am in the region of microwaves, infrared radiation, as well as the radio waves. Now, this radiation as well as this visible light, I discussed in the last lecture, they are not harmful to the human or living organism because their energy is small. But when you go in this side, coming to the ultraviolet radiation, X-rays, and gamma rays, then we are entering in this region to a type of radiation which we call as ionizing radiation, and they are harmful to the human body depending upon their intensity as well as upon their frequency. So nature has protected us from these radiations because they are hardly reaching to the surface of Earth. They are filtered out by the atmosphere as well as the ozone layer, where these radiations are non-interactive with the atmosphere and they reach us and they are responsible for the life on Earth. This we have discussed the other day. You can see here 100 nanometer frequency of the order of 10 raised to the power 16, 10 raised to the power 17, 10 raised to the power 18, 10 raised to the power 19. Visible is less than 10 raised to the power 13, I will say, and then infrared, and then thermal infrared, then microwaves, and then radio waves. So up till this, we are safe. Above this, we are not safe if they are falling on us by natural means or by artificial mechanism. That's why it is always recommended that don't take X-ray of your body part frequently, because that will create cancerous cells in your skin or in the interior, depending upon the radiation. I've listed here the energy, wavelength, and frequencies. These are frequencies. These things are represented here, and these are wavelengths, picometer, then nanometer, and then micrometer, and then millimeter, and then centimeter, then decimeter, then meter, and then kilometer, etc., etc. And these are the corresponding values of energy, which you can easily calculate by using the formula E is equal to H into C divided by lambda. We have values of H, which is the Planck's constant. We have value of C, which is the speed of light, 3 into 10 raised to the power 8 meter per second. And we have the value of lambda, which I can take for any radiation from here. And corresponding value of energy that will come out to be in joules, and you can convert them, the joule, into electron volt. So this will correspond to the values calculated by this formula, H into C divided by lambda. So what generally you are seeing is that smaller the wavelength, more is the energy. For example, if I say 1 micrometer, energy is 1.24 electron volt. When I say 100 nanometer, this is micrometer and this is nanometer. Energy will be 12.4 electron volt. Similarly, 10 nanometer, 125 electron volt, 1 nanometer, 1.24 kilo electron volt, and similarly for 100 and so on. And if you are coming here, for example, 1 meter, energy is very small, 1.25 micro electron volt. So this is, and this part which is in the visible region and below, we call them as non-ionizing radiation, and that part which is above the visible region entering into the ultraviolet and X-rays and gamma rays, they all are ionizing radiation. So we have to protect ourselves from the ionizing radiation. The non-ionizing radiation will not affect us in greater extent. Of course, when we are exposed for longer period of time with high intensity radiation, of course they will affect, but normally your natural radiation are not affecting us. So one thing here is that smaller is the wavelength, larger is the frequency, and greater is the energy. Okay? Now this thing we will use in the photoelectric effect. Now what is the photoelectric effect? This is the emission of electrons from matter means solid body. When matter is illuminated by certain type of electromagnetic radiation. Certain type of electromagnetic radiation means the energy of the incident electromagnetic radiation is having certain value above a certain value. This phenomena was first observed by Hertz in 1887, and it was called as cold emission, because at that time there was hot emission which was explained. Hot emission means thermionic emission. When you heat up the body, it will emit electrons. Here in this case, we are not heating the body, we are just throwing electromagnetic radiation of certain wavelength, certain frequency, certain energy on the material body, and it will emit electrons. Since this process is occurring in the cold state, mean normal temperature state, so that's what's called as cold emission, in contrast to the high temperature emission or thermionic emission. The effect occurs when metals are illuminated by ultraviolet light. Ultraviolet light, as I told you, when you are in the ultraviolet light region, their energy is more and can occur with alkali metals. If I use the target material as alkali metal, then this can also occur with the visible light. It means the energy of the visible light is enough to knock out electron from the surface of a metal which is made up of alkali metals. You know alkali metals like sodium, potassium, rubidium, etc., etc. It remained unexplained, you see, 1887 and 1905. So how many years? 13 plus 5, 18 years. It was being observed, but it was unexplained how this phenomena is occurring till 1905. And in 1905, it was Einstein who explained the emission of electrons from the metal surface by illuminating the metal surface with electromagnetic radiation. And he used the Planck's quantum theory. What does it mean? I'm just going to explain it. Planck's quantum theory. Okay? So it was the Einstein in 1905 who explained the observed phenomena of cold emission, which was observed in 1887 in 1905. And you know, Einstein has got a lot of contribution in physics, special theory of relativity, general theory of relativity, etc., etc. But the Nobel Prize he got was on the explanation of this photoelectric effect. He did not get the Nobel Prize on the other things. He got the Nobel Prize on the explanation of photoelectric effect. And this phenomena was explained. How it was and how it is explained by quantum theory. Now, when I talk about the classical theory, there the energy of a wave depends upon its amplitude. Energy of the wave depends upon its amplitude. And you know what is amplitude? It's the maximum distance from the mean position. Okay, so energy was, in classical theory, was given as proportional to, energy of the wave was proportional to square of the amplitude of the wave. Okay, so it means that if I have various waves in phase with each other, like this, this is one wave, this is another wave in phase with it. It means the crest of one and the crest of the other, they are in the same position of time, they are in phase with each other like this. This is the third one. This is the third one. amplitude of this, if I say, is A. Amplitude of this, if I say, is B. And amplitude of this, I'll say, it is C. If we combine them, then their net amplitude will be equal to like this. This will be equal to A plus B plus C. And similarly, this will also be equal to A plus B plus C. So if energy of one wave is equal to this, square of this, the energy of the combination should be equal to the square of, for example, if I take as A star or A dash, this energy of this wave should be equal to E should be proportional to square of A dash. Okay? So it means if one wave has got less amount of energy, I can combine different waves as per classical theory, and I can make a wave whose energy is, as per classical theory, much greater than the one wave. Okay? The wave intensity or energy was directly proportional to the square of the amplitude. As I wrote it here, E is proportional to A square. Then why coherent wave of low frequency cannot superimpose to create wave of high amplitude or high energy to knock out electron from the metal surface? It means if this is one wave, 1, this is 2, this is 3. If one wave cannot remove electron from the metal surface, then the combination of these waves should remove the electron from the metal surface. This is classical theory because energy is proportional to the square of the amplitude. But observation was absolutely different. Observation was this, that if one wave with a particular amplitude is unable to remove electron from the metal surface, then even if I throw 100 of the waves in phase with each other, hundreds of the waves in phase with each other, they will not be able to remove electron from the metal surface. So if I mean 100 of the waves, which means the amplitude of the wave will be equal to sum of the amplitude of all waves included. तो उसकी एनर्जी तो ज़्यादा होनी चाहिए थी, E should be proportional to A square. तो ये अगर एनर्जी ज़्यादा है तो ये combine effect करके they can move an electron from the metal surface. But observation was contrary to this, was not agreeing with this. Now, what is this? Your electromagnetic radiation releases electron from the metal cathode. These electrons are attracted to the anode and complete a circuit, allowing a current to flow. Okay, this is the setup you can see. This is a vacuum tube, Y vacuum, so that electron emitted from here should not lose their energy during their path in reaching from cathode to anode. This was vacuum tube, a glass tube, and this is cathode, metal, from which we want to emit electrons, and this is your anode, which I have given the positive potential, this I have given the negative potential. Now, normally when no photon is falling, no radiation is falling, this milliampere will show us no current. But when I throw radiation of specific wavelength or specific frequency on this cathode, then electrons will be emitted from the cathode and they will come to the anode like this. You can see electron is coming. If there are more radiation, there will be more electrons coming here. So if this electron is a charged particle, if it is passing through the circuit, then this galvanometer or this milliampere meter, microampere meter will show you current. So this shows that electromagnetic radiation are capable for emission of electron from the cathode surface, which is a metal surface. Now what I explained here, for example, if I take a particular metal and I throw red color electromagnetic radiation, I know what is the value of the wavelength and frequency of this red color. I throw one photon, okay, on this cathodes, and I observe that no electromagnetic radiation is emitted. When red light hits the metal foil, the foil does not emit electrons. So if I increase the number of the red, you see no electron is being emitted. But if I increase the number of the photons, 1, 2, 3, there, and throw it on again the same plate, one was not able to create, two will not be able to create as well. Okay, so you see, if two photons, they will not emit any electron. Similarly, if I throw more, these are more photons. You can see it. These are more photons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you can take it to hundreds and millions of it. So again, if you throw it on the metal surface, if one photon was not able to emit one photon of this color, this particular energy, this particular frequency, then hundreds and thousands of the photon will not be able to emit electron. Okay? So I will say what is here. This is 1. I take 1, 2, 3. I have increased the energy as per classical theory, but no electron is being emitted in this case. So we can say that this phenomenon of enhancement of energy by adding these waves amplitude together does not work here. So what I say, I go back here, then I wrote here, blue light has more energy than red light. If you see the electromagnetic spectrum, the minimum energy is that of the red light, and blue light, what's there? I will say energy increasing, Weber-Geyer, VIBGYOR. Energy is increasing in this way. Red light was not able to remove an electron. Where is blue? Blue is here. The energy, if energy is increasing in this way, I can say blue will have more energy than red color. Blue light has more energy than red light. How could we get more energy into red light? So I told you, classical theory, red, red, red. I'm adding them together, I'm getting a new wave. Classically, the energy of this wave should be proportional to the square of the amplitude, should be greater. But what I observed here, if one photon of red color is not emitting any electron, two will not do so. And even if I increase the number to hundreds and thousands, they will not increase they will not they will not be capable to emit electron from the metal. So I say, still not working. What happens with the brighted blue light? Now I am talking about the blue light. You can see one photon of the blue light. One blue light strikes the metal foil. The foil emits electrons. Electrons are emitted by a single photon of energy. E is equal to h into nu. Now this nu is the frequency of the blue light, and when it was red light, energy was less because the value of nu for red light is small. So this single photon will emit electron from the metal surface, and if I increase the number of the photons, then more electrons will be emitted. If this is emitting 1, this 3 will emit 3 electrons. And if I take it to hundreds and thousands of the photon, then more and more electron will be emitted. So I can say, if a single photon can emit an electron, if I increase the number of the photon, more electron will be emitted. And if I further increase the number of the photon, more electron and more electron will be emitted. So it means that the photon individually is interacting with the electron of the metal. It is not the combined effect. The combined effect, as per classical theory, failed. So I will say the photon, which I can say here, that the blue photon, a single blue photon can emit electron, then 3 blue photon will emit 3 electrons, and more blue photons will emit more and more electrons. 1 electron, 3 photons, 3 electrons, and this is the more photons, more electrons. More blue light means more electrons emitted, but that does not work with red. As I told you, when I increase the number of photons of red, if a single red photon cannot emit electron, then hundreds and thousands of the red photon will not be able to emit electron. Wave theory cannot explain these phenomena, as the energy depends upon intensity or brightness. As I told you, as per wave theory, energy was proportional to what? Energy was proportional to the square of the amplitude. But if it is true, then if one red photon is not emitting, then 1,000 red photons should emit electron, but it does not happen. According to wave theory, bright red light should work, but it doesn't, as I explained it to you. But it does not. Then what's there? Einstein said that light travels in tiny packets, which are called as quantas. You can see there is no concept of frequency. There is no concept of dependence of energy on frequency in classical theory. Okay, but in the quantum theory, energy depends upon the frequency. H is the Planck's constant. Higher is the frequency, higher will be energy. Here in this case, energy was depending upon the square of the amplitude. It was not depending upon the frequency. The energy of each photon is given by its frequency as per Planck's theory, and it is given by E is equal to h multiplied by f, or h multiplied by nu, where f is the frequency, E is the energy, and h is the Planck's constant. So all these are explained here. Energy is equal to Planck's constant multiplied by the frequency, or sometimes you write it as, in place of f you use the word nu. Photon energy, as you know, E is equal to h into nu, and your c, velocity of the light, is always the product of frequency and wavelength. So from this I can calculate the value of nu, c divided by lambda. Substitute this value here, so E is equal to h into value of nu, which is c divided by lambda. So I can also write the energy of the photon, E, is equal to h into c divided by lambda, and this tells me that if I increase the wavelength, energy will reduce, and if I reduce the wavelength, energy will increase. Each metal has a minimum energy needed for an electron to be emitted. There is a minimum energy for every metal, which is called as work function. Work function. For example, if you take copper metal, its work function will be different. If you take sodium metal, its work function will be different. If you take potassium metal, its work function will be different. So, the energy of the incident photon should be greater than the corresponding energy of the work function. So, for an electron to be emitted, the energy of the photon, h into f or h into nu, must be greater than the work function. This much amount, which is the work function, will be used up, and remaining amount will be taken by the electron as its kinetic energy. The excess energy is the kinetic energy E of the emitted electron. So we can write that Einstein's famous equation, E is equal to h into f minus w. We can also write E is equal to h into f, or h into nu, minus w. This E is the kinetic energy. This is the incident energy of the photon, and this is the work function. This is Ke, kinetic energy. This is the energy of the photon, photon energy, incident photon energy, and this is the work function, which sometimes also write as work function. And sometimes also we can write E is equal to h into nu minus h into nu naught. This h into nu naught, or nu naught, is the corresponding value of energy required for the work function. So we write this equation like this. Red light photon does not have enough in the frequency. The value of the energy of the red photon is less than work function. So there is no question of the electron to take kinetic energy, because it is less than the energy required to remove an electron. Frequency and hence energy to knock out the electron from the metal surface, as energy is equal to. Blue light has high frequency and hence energy, which is enough to knock out an electron from the metal surface, as energy again is E is into. Now if I plot the kinetic energy of the electron and the frequency on the x-axis, kinetic energy on the y-axis. So you can see that up till here, this is no kinetic energy. I'm throwing photon of certain frequency, but its kinetic energy is 0 up till here. Okay? And if I increase the frequency more than this value, for all these frequencies, electron will not be emitted from the metal surface. But as soon as I increase the energy frequency beyond this value, then corresponding value of the kinetic energy comes in. You can see it like this, like this, like this. So if frequency is greater than this, then some of the energy of the incident photon will be taken by the electron as kinetic energy. Some of it will be used for the emission of the electron, that is the work function. So I will say this will be the slope of the curve. Okay? So because this is the zero value of frequency and this is certain value of frequency. If I take what is the value of frequency here and multiply it with h, this will be my work function for that particular metal. So if one metal has got one value of frequency, another metal will have another value of frequency. For normal metals, I will say the incident photon must have frequency greater than your visible range. That is, it should be in the ultraviolet range. For alkali metals, even within the visible range, the electron can be emitted. But general formula for kinetic energy will be equal to h multiplied by f, where f is the frequency of the incident photon, minus phi, where phi is the work function. Or you can write hf is equal to ke plus phi. For same formula, hf, h into nu is equal to kinetic energy of the emitted electron plus the work function phi. So your incident photon energy is used up in removing an electron from the metal surface, and remaining amount will be taken by the electron as its kinetic energy. So this is the graph between the kinetic energy and you can see. So this value, kinetic energy and frequency, and this value, the minimum value of the frequency above which electron has the kinetic energy is called as threshold frequency. What threshold frequency and corresponding value of energy will be called as work function. This is the same experiment. If I want to find the kinetic energy of the electron, what I will do, I will place here a plate with the negative potential. Electron is being emitted. I am throwing photons on this metal surface, cathode. Electrons are emitted, but this will repel the electron. If it has got a particular value of the voltage, electron will not be able to reach here and the current in this meter will stop. So I will note what is the value of that potential and multiply it with the charge of the electron. That will be equal to the kinetic energy. So I can write Ke will be equal to Ke maximum, Ke maximum will be equal to how much potential is needed to stop an electron, V multiplied by E, so that no current is here. If this potential, negative potential, is having smaller value, then electron will be capable to reach here. This will show you the current. But if I increase the negative value of potential on this plate, electron will be repelled and it will not be able to reach to this surface. So that will be called as the stopping potential of the this will be stopping potential for these electrons, and this will be equal to the kinetic energy as I've written here. Ke maximum is equal to V multiplied by E, where V is the potential applied on this plate. So Ke maximum is equal to E into V. Intensity of the light had no effect on energy. Intensity of the light. What is meant by intensity? When you are increasing the number of the photons, it means you are increasing the intensity. If I increase the intensity, the maximum energy will not be affected. But if I increase the frequency, then the maximum energy will be affected. There was a threshold frequency for ejection. So there is a minimum energy which is needed to knock out an electron from the metal surface. Now these are some, I will say, the questions which you have to solve at home and find the corresponding values. Gold has a work function of 4.82 electron volt. A block of gold is illuminated with ultraviolet light having wavelength 160 nanometer. Find the maximum kinetic energy of the emitted photoelectrons in electron volt and find the threshold frequency of the gold. By using these equations and by using these concepts, you can find everything. Similarly, the work function for photoelectric material is 3.5 electron volt. The material is illuminated with monochromatic light with a wavelength of 300 nanometer. What is the coefficient, what is the cutoff frequency for the particular material? Cutoff frequency means what is the work function. Find the stopping potential for the emitted electron. So as I explained it here, you can find the stopping potential as well. What is the lowest frequency of light that can cause the release of electron from metal? That is a work function of 2.8 electrons. So easily you can do these things. Sodium and silver have work function of 2.46 electron volt and 4.73 electron volt respectively. So this has got more value, this has got less value. If surface of both metals are illuminated with the same monochromatic light, which metal will give off photoelectrons with greater speed, mean having large kinetic energy? तो जिसका वर्क फंक्शन ज़्यादा होगा उसकी काइनेटिक एनर्जी कम होगी, जिसका वर्क फंक्शन कम होगा उसकी काइनेटिक एनर्जी ज़्यादा होगी. How much faster will these photoelectrons? You can calculate what is the ratio of the velocity of the electron emitted by this metal to the velocity of the electron emitted by this metal. And what is the cutoff wavelength for each material? So also you can find what is the cutoff wavelength from these already discussed values and concepts. So this is about the photoelectric effect. This is a very, very important phenomenon today, and it is being used extensively in our electronics, photodiodes, solar cells, semiconductors, etc., etc. So you will use this phenomena, or you can understand the various electronic instruments which are functioning on the basis of photoelectric effect. So this is enough for today, and inshallah in the next lecture we will go ahead for another topic. Thank you.